Chapter 2. His eyes closed tightly. Bray imagined himself in another place. A different time. It was the only refuge he had right now. His imagination. The only way he could escape from the predicament he had ended up in. His thoughts drifted back to Amber. To their life together back in the city. He loved her with every fibre of his being. And the pain of their separation ached deeply to his very core. He could picture her looking back at him with love in her eyes. She was the kindest, most gentle, sincere person he had ever met. He thought they were destined to be together, star-crossed lovers in a fairy tale ending, living happy ever after. Yet were those many precious memories of Amber themselves real? Had his life of the past with her even happened at all, or was it all some part of a virtual reality program? Was he even sitting in solitary confinement in his cell, like he perceived he was? Bray had been subjected to so many simulations that he was beginning to doubt his own mind, losing sight of what was real and what was illusion. He was even in danger of losing himself, his sense of self-identity, his very being. All the barrage of information he had suffered, the sensory stimulation, the virtual worlds he had been trapped in, the experiments he had endured. It was now taking its toll. He felt as if his spirit had been drained, and that he wouldn't be able to keep going on for much longer. But he had to try. What little dignity and essence he still had, Bray now consciously clung onto. He wouldn't give in. Or give up. Somehow, if he could only find the time to think, separating the real from the illusionary, he hoped he could discover some way of getting through this living nightmare that fate had thrust upon him. So immersed in his thoughts, Bray didn't notice the guards entering his cell. The iron door, creaking with rust as it was unlocked, swung open. They surveyed their prisoner. Bray lay on the ground, covered in dirt, his brown hair matted in mud. He hadn't been washed for some time. One of the guards tried to suppress the body stench as he carefully approached, placing a tray on the ground beside the prisoner.
Breakfast,
the guard whispered caustically, staring at Bray with contempt. Bray snapped out of his reverie and returned to the stark realization of the hell he was in. He looked at the breakfast plate. A bowl of cold gruel, flies crawling and buzzing on the foul, rotting food. Bray met the guard's stare with his own, his eyes full of resistance.
Eat,
the guard ordered, keen to watch Bray consume the disgusting meal. I'm not hungry, Bray lied. He was starving. But he realized this was almost a power struggle between him and his captors, and he was determined to not give his jailers any satisfaction. Suddenly, the guard lifted the bowl and rubbed Bray's face in the contents. Bray struggled to resist, but with his feet and hands bound, there was little he could do. He found himself choking, inadvertently inhaling the oats, the flies up into his nostrils and mouth. That's enough, barked the all-too-familiar voice as a tall girl entered the cell, the guards bowing their heads in respect. She was about the same age as Bray, and he recognized the voice. It had haunted him since the first time he had arrived at the compound. Now he felt an involuntary shudder as she strode purposely towards him, her piercing blue eyes studying him. Tall, with flowing black hair down over her shoulders, Eloise was an imposing sight, a commanding figure who exuded natural authority and charisma. Her black uniform clung to her body, and she swayed seductively, while surveying her most important prisoner, the burly guard nearby stepping away to allow her some space. She was aware of her good looks, and in a camp full of many male guards as well as prisoners, she was always happy to use her natural attributes to get her way. But being firmly in control of the compound didn't need to rely on anything other than her status and power. Leave us, Eloise ordered the guards. Nodding in deference to his leader, the huge jailer ushered his fellow guards out of the cell, the thick iron door shutting behind him. Every day was full of many ordeals. Bray wondered what had been planned for him this time. Eloise smiled, her impeccable white teeth leering as she leaned over him and began to stroke his hair gently, wiping flecks of spilt oats away, scoffing her displeasure at seeing Bray this way. "How are you feeling?" she asked out of care, but Bray picked up her tone was obviously not as sincere or genuine as she was making out. "What do you think?" Bray spat an oat of gruel which landed on Eloise's shoulder. Casually, Eloise brushed off the gruel. "I think you are a stubborn human being, but you will learn that you are not as stubborn as I. So why don't you and I become allies? We could do great things together," she pouted seductively. Bray stared back at her. Eloise was clearly an intelligent individual who took delight in mind games, Bray reasoned. But he wasn't about to play. Not now, not ever. He wasn't about to give in. "Come on," Eloise encouraged, casting a coy glance at Bray, playing the temptress. "Give a girl a break. Surely I'm not that bad in your eyes. You must find me even a little bit attractive." Bray appreciated Eloise's obvious external beauty, her blue eyes staring into his own. She was certainly attractive. Yet he was repulsed by her, who she was as a person. He fully knew she was in charge of his imprisonment and would have been the one to order the guards to act so mercilessly, let alone subjecting him to so many reality space experiments. "Leave me alone," Bray demanded. "My dear Bray, surely you don't mean that," Eloise said in mock hurt at his words. "I mean, look at you and me here, together. We're one with Zoot, aren't we?" "What do you want with me?" Bray snapped, angered at the mention of Zoot. He never agreed with the path of his brother, but still felt outraged by anyone manipulating Zoot's name and reputation, distorting his brother's life and legacy. "I want you. For one night, that's all. You and I to spend one night together." Eloise smiled disarmingly. "You're crazy," Bray scoffed. "Crazy for you mean?" "Praise Zoot," Eloise added, playfully mentioning Zoot's name once more. "I'd rather die than spend one night with you, Eloise." "Both can be arranged," Eloise cautioned. "If you're nice to me, I can be nice to you. But if not..." Out of nowhere, Eloise slapped Bray hard in the face. "You think I really care about you? Or your stupid brother, Zoot? The Zootists, any of that? Oh, if so, you're very much mistaken. You're nothing more than a very valuable commodity, Bray. Worth more to me alive than dead. As long as you father a child. My child, that is. Either willingly or maybe in our next trip into reality space." "You're mad," Bray protested. Eloise seized Bray by his jaw, pressing down on both sides of his face with her hands, digging her nails into his cheeks, her blue eyes intense, inches away from Bray's face. "One night, Bray, and one child, that's all. Don't let down all those who put their faith in Zoot. Let's give them something real to worship. My baby. Our child." And with that, Eloise kissed Bray passionately, Bray squirming to avoid her, but unable due to being tied down. "Think about that," Eloise said, pulling herself away from Bray and scrambling to her feet. Snapping her fingers to her guards, the iron door creaked open, and Bray braced himself as the guards entered. "I'm patient, but you don't have forever, Bray," Eloise said. Spinning on her heel, Eloise headed out of the cell, a guard closing the door behind her. "Show him what happens when I run out of patience," she called back to the guards who remained in the cell. Defiant to the last, Bray gritted his teeth as the guards descended on him quickly, their fists flailing.